Hi there, I'm the Devlog I and welcome to another devlog video. The game's actually got a name now, so it's no longer entitled Unity game. Instead, it's now called Tainted Spire, and if you want to know why, I've explained the reason in my Discord server. This is also the first video that I've actually scripted, so I would appreciate any feedback you can give in the comments. Anyway, last episode I released the first public build of the game, and well, it was kind of a little bit broken, so I immediately had some things to fix, such as this massive crystal not having collision. I don't know how I missed that. After fixing those issues, I decided that I wanted to improve the terrain generation because, well, its performance is kind of terrible right now. So let's explain how chunks are generated in this game. So first of all, the script loops around the player, checking if any chunk it comes across has been generated before, and if it hasn't, it first generates the terrain map for that, after which it uses marching cubes algorithms to generate a mesh. Marching cubes isn't that complicated, to be honest, but others have done a way better job at explaining it than I ever could, so go check those videos out. Now before, for some stupid reason, the script will not only get the terrain height value for every x and z value, but also for every y value, even though the terrain height is based entirely off of the x and z values. So I quickly fixed that, making that part about 512 times faster, since each chunk is 512 units high, which meant that it kept looping through it 512 times without actually needing to. I don't know how I missed that. Now, as you can see, the terrain generation is a lot smoother. I also decided to add a quick feature where you can now increase and decrease the generation distance at will, allowing for things like this to exist, which is great at showing the scale of the world. I'm probably going to change the approach for terrain generation entirely later on, since considering the fact that this world is not infinite and never is going to be, it might be better for both visual and performance reasons to switch to an LOD or quad tree system, since with those systems the entire world is generated upon startup and it can show you a lot more terrain without actually needing to take all that much performance out of the game. I also made some quality of life changes to the backpack tool, since before it was kind of clunky to use, so I added some relatively simple UI to it, as well as adding some UI to the projector tool to make it a little bit easier to tell where you're scrolling to and what you have selected, which should make those tools a little bit more intuitive to use. After doing those things, I decided I wanted to add crafting stations to the game. The idea is that crafting stations function like machines will later on, with the difference that machines will be conveyor fed and automatic and require power, whereas crafting stations will be manually operated, with most of them requiring very little, if any, power to use. Now, I will come back to the power system later, because that's also going to be an important feature. Crafting stations weren't all that difficult to add into the game. For selecting the recipe, I'm currently using buttons, but I want to add a tool later on that allows you to change the recipe in a similar way to the way you select hollows in the projector tool. After adding those systems, I added two crafting stations into the game: the workbench and the furnace. I also changed a lot of recipes so that, for example, you now make the iron tools in the workbench, all the bars and ingots in the furnace, as well as making things like wire and circuit boards in the workbench. Now I do want to add some other stations, for example the electronics workshop, the forge or smithy, and maybe a CNC or plasma cutter inspired machine, as well as a crystal workshop for things to do with yesium power. Now, speaking of power in Tainted Spire is going to consist of two basic types of power. The first and most basic one is electricity, which functions just like any other game. A source, for example a solar panel, provides power to a network, and all of the machines connected to that network function at an efficiency corresponding to amount of available power. For example, if a solar panel generates 40 watts and a machine requires 50 watts, the machine will function at 4/5 efficiency. Now, this should create an interesting dynamic for the later game as well as the early game. In the later game, it will be more a balancing act between demand and efficiency and power generation, as well as the other type of power, which will create another interesting dynamic. Now, the other power type is generated by the yessium crystals. Now, yessium can generate a little, or if you use catalyst or pure yessium crystals, a lot of power, which flows from yessium crystals to a new type of crystal, void crystals, generating either electricity or matter along the way. Now, what are void crystals, you ask? Well, for that I need to explain how yessium works. Yessium crystals are a type of crystal that, for reasons that are unknown to humanity, generates pure energetic matter, which can generate a lot of power.
Yes.
This energetic matter can be used together with electricity to generate matter, or together with matter to generate insane amounts of electricity.
Yes.
Void crystals are the polar opposite to yessium crystals, consuming energy and matter instead of generating it.
No.
And as it turns out, the amount of energy and matter void crystals consume is directly correlated to the amount of power yessium crystals generate, meaning that the more power you generate with yessium, the more void crystals start to consume around them.
No.
Now, this should give you an idea of what the late game will be partially about with automation, as I just feel like having to balance production with power always makes the game more interesting. Like, for example, Satisfactory would not be anywhere near as fun of a game if power wasn't as well implemented as it is in the game. So I hope that this will make the game a lot more fun later on. If you have any questions or suggestions about these systems or other systems, I would really appreciate any feedback you can give to me in my Discord server. So you can join the Discord server with a link in the description. Now, after this video, I will probably take a bit of a break from developing Tainted Spire to work on some smaller games, which I might be able to complete within a few devlogs. Because, as you might have noticed, development on Tainted Spire has been going a little bit slow, and I hope that developing some other smaller projects can allow me to, first of all, improve before embarking on such a complicated project again, as well as just allowing me to make some new content for all of you. Anyway, if you liked the video, please leave a like. If you want to see more or keep up with any videos that I do upload, please remember to subscribe and like and join my Discord server. And with that, see ya!